physical edge you wanted to see from him wasn't there. Do we have breaking news?
Breaking news. The Patriots are hiring Alex Van Pelt as their offensive coordinator.
What?
That came out of absolutely nowhere. Former NFL quarterback and longtime respected assistant, Van Pelt spent the past 4 seasons as the Browns OC. Now he fills a big spot on Gerard Mayo's staff in New England.
What?
That is, wow.
Okay.
Wow.
Are we sure?
Yeah. Tom Pelissero. Yeah, that's official. That is
Wow.
I don't wait. Okay, did he delete it? Because I tried to quote tweet and it didn't work.
I see it. It's up. Tom Pelissero.
Whoa. Okay, that literally came out of nowhere.
Yeah, that's really him.
Anybody want to? Yeah, let me pull up a little bit of background on it. I feel like that's a name I've seen floated a couple of times. I'll go through his career right now. So it looks like he was with the Packers from 2012 to 2017. He was the running backs coach from 2012 to 2013, then moved on to quarterbacks coach 2014 to 2017, was the Bengals quarterbacks coach from 2018 to 2019 before Dan Pitcher, and then he was the offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach for the Browns. So you get a guy who's got offense coordinator and quarterbacks coach experience, which I do think they need if they're going to bring in a young guy. Interesting, because you saw, obviously, Joe Flacco. You don't know how much a quarterback's coach necessarily has to do with that, but he had a little emergence there. That's fascinating.
I just had this weird brain fart for whatever reason, probably because they played for the Bills at the same time. I confused. Part of the reason I was so confused, I confused Alex Van Pelt with Ken Dorsey.
Yeah, that's fair.
Let me reset here, because it's not Ken Dorsey. I thought they just hired Ken Dorsey.
Yeah, this is fun.
They got someone with experience, right? He's 53. Right. He's been around 27 years in the NFL. So you get an experienced guy to pair with Mayo. And he was a former quarterback, right? You said that?
Yeah, he was a lot. Yeah, he was the Bills
quarterback and a quarterback's coach.
Starting quarterback, I think, for a while.
95 to 2003 Buffalo Bills quarterback, yeah.
That's when he played for them, because it was him. It was him, Ken Dorsey, and a couple other guys, I think, like rotated. Oh, no, he was their backup. 1 year, he was their primary starter.
And he hasn't worked with...
Oh, and Rob Johnson was the other one in there.
It's really funny. He's someone who he missed Matt LaFleur and he missed Zach Taylor. So he doesn't have ties to that, that coaching tree. That's kind of funny, actually. Well, you'd think that they would go that way, but I guess not.
I'm blanking. What tree is Stefanski from?
He's
no, he was in Minnesota forever. What's his name?
Yeah. Who's the coach in 2019? Vikings coach.
Zimmer.
All right, so he was in Minnesota under Brad Childress, Leslie Frazier, and Mike Zimmer.
Couple great offensive minds. Brad Zimmer and Mike Zimmer.
All right. So anybody have any pressing thoughts, any notes? This is wild. This is a lot to process. At least if it was like Haley, we'd have something to say.
I know. I wish it was someone they at least interviewed, so we had like some in-depth background knowledge on this guy here. But I mean, I think that the big things were, again, experienced play caller. He's been around a while, and he was a former quarterback. So if you're bringing in a rookie, a number 3 overall pick, is something we talked with Zach Robinson about, or some of these other guys they interviewed who were quarterbacks. They played the position. They know the ins and outs, and they're going to be in the building to help a young guy to come in and kind of fill their shoes. So I don't know. It's out of nowhere, but interesting.
It's very interesting. Patriots get an experienced play caller. He's been calling plays for 4 years. That's not nothing. He's been a quarterbacks coach for a very long time, has experience as a player. So makes him now. Did DeMarcus Covington play? Did he play in college?
He played like FCS.
Okay. Well, those are now 3 coordinators with playing experience.
The 4 years he was at Green Bay, he overlapped with Luke Getsy, I believe, 2014 and 2017. So that could be someone else that potentially that's someone who's interviewed. So maybe that's someone they look to kind of add to the staff here. Maybe like a quarterback coach or passing game coordinator or whatever role they want to cook up, that could be something to watch too.
I'll say this, and I'm not opposed to the idea of adding a quarterback's coach or passing game coordinator or something like that, but you figure it's so interesting because not only did they not talk to him, at least not publicly, of all the people they talked to, he doesn't, it was younger guys without OC experience, Shanahan, McVay tree, or Detroit, right? Or some sort of West Coast something. He's an older, experienced, and they didn't talk to a lot of guys with a quarterback background. It was a lot of tight ends coaches. This is an older, experienced coordinator, quarterback guy. So you have to recalibrate the whole thing. That doesn't mean it's good or bad, by the way. It's just why it's so tough to react to. The one thing I'll say is, okay, so they have a quarterbacks guy. Maybe you bring in a pass game coordinator, quarterbacks coach, whatever, but you figure if you hire somebody like Alex Van Pelt, you're hiring him for a quarterback. And that's not to say they're going to draft a quarterback. Maybe the quarterback they're hiring him for is Mac Jones. Maybe it's Jacoby Brissett. Like, it could be anybody. Maybe it's Jane Daniels. Maybe it's Joe Milton. I don't know. But although I think Alex Van Pelt, if I have the timeline right, Tampa Bay 10-11. Was he there with Josh Freeman? Because he's a little Joe Milton. Yeah. Okay, but that's ignore that. The point being, I actually think the most important staffing hire now is offensive line coach.
Yes, agreed.
More so than
Can he bring Bill Callahan with him from Cleveland?
So that is what I was about to say. That is
I'm
literally
looking
what I
at
was
their
about
staff
to say.
right now. Yep.
Can you get Bill Callahan here?
Let's see.
Which I doubt it, but it's worth a shot, right?
Well, there's been some questions about who. Of course,
Scott Peters is their assistant offensive line coach, just a name to keep in mind if he wants a promotion or something like that.
Why does that sound familiar?
Yeah, that does.
Scott Peters, let's see, played 7 seasons in the NFL from 2002 to 2009 after being drafted by the Eagles. During his first season with the Browns, he helped the club finish 3rd in the league in rushing. And he helped Jack Conklin earn first-team All-Pro, and Joe Bitonio and Wyatt Teller earn second-team All-Pro.
Oh, this is interesting. Sorry to cut you off.
No.
Peters is a big he uses jiu-jitsu in his training style. And we know that's something kind of the martial arts element to the offensive line with Joe Kim, right? That's something now that was under Bill. So, but if Gerard Mayo kind of subscribes to that belief. But yeah, that was my first thought was, can we get Bill Callahan here? And looking at the rest of the coaching staff, by the way, another guy.
Chad O'Shea.
Well, Chad O'Shea would be interesting. They just hired this guy. He's like, they hired him last month. Deuce Staley. I was just a big Deuce Staley fan. So he's part of, so Ken Dorsey replaced Alex Van Pelt as offensive coordinator, because I can't tell the two apart. I guarantee you I'm going to write Ken Dorsey at some point. But yeah, offensive line coach to me is now the big one.
Also, Kelly Bronson, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, is their assistant wide receivers coach. So really, you kind of want to look at the assistant coaches on the staff to see who he might be poaching. So those are a couple names to look out for. Browns had some pretty good success with their wide receiver position. I wonder if they bring in, because Nick Haley, I don't even know if he's gotten any interest elsewhere. You think maybe they bring him back as like a run game coordinator or something like that?
I don't think so.
No?
One of two things happened, because he was the finalist, right? Either he told them no or they told him no. Somebody told somebody no, and I can't imagine that that's going to go over super well. So and if you were going to run that offense, like you'd think he'd be here. I don't see. I think Kaylee's off the table now.
New customers join today, and you get $200 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. Just visit FanDuel.com/Boston to sign up. That's FanDuel.com/Boston. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL.
Hopefully, new offensive coordinator Alex Van Pelt can get a good offensive line coach in here, so you can wait till the 4th or 5th round and get some of these guys who are projects with great physical tools and actually turn them into some quality starters. I see some comments in the comment section. We have addressed the Alex Van Pelt side.
Can we add one thing to the Alex Van Pelt conversation?
Yeah,
as
for
I'm kind of doing some digging. He was in Green Bay, I believe. Let me double check this. I think he was in Green Bay with Elliott Wolf.
Yeah.
2017.
I was just about to tweet that, because I found that when they were interviewing Getsy, that was when Wolf was there, and Wolf has obviously been involved in these kind of interviews. So that was a third person in Green Bay there.
I wonder if this was an Elliott Wolf hire. And I think it's two things. It's Elliott Wolf, and I think, look, the Browns made the playoffs going through 4 quarterbacks. And that's not to say that the quarterbacks were the one carrying them to the playoffs. You know, Joe Flacco was fine. They obviously had a great defense, but the quarterbacks also didn't blow it, which I think is kind of still going to be the Patriots model, that you're not necessarily going to have like the San Francisco 49ers model, right? The Brock Purdy model. And Van Pelt was able to get that kind of quarterback play out of that group, out of Joe Flacco off the couch, out of DTR. Who was the other one who started for them? It was obviously Watson, and then
do you already say Flacco?
It was PJ Walker.
Yes. And
I feel like a game, and they switched it up. Yeah,
he got whatever it was, 10 wins out of those guys. Like,
yeah.
And
this isn't like Luke Getsy, where he was on the staff at the same time as Rodgers and kind of probably just rode the coattails of Nathaniel Hackett. Like, this guy was actually in Green Bay for a while with Aaron Rodgers. So that's a lot of very valuable experience that he's got there. So, again, did coach running backs from 2012 to 2013, but then switched to quarterbacks from 2014, 2017. Also interesting, he's got a little bit of outside experience there, not just quarterbacks, but the vast majority of his coaching resume and playing resume, obviously, is at the quarterback position. Anything you guys want to throw in before we get out of here?
So are they a West Coast team now?
I guess. I think so. Right?
I got to watch some tape.
I look again, the Browns quarterbacks last year, I'll run through it. And I don't know, maybe this is me just trying to come to terms with it, but they actually started 5 quarterbacks, not 4. I missed one. Joe Flacco, Deshaun Watson, DTR, PJ Walker, Jeff Driscoll snuck a start in there.
Okay.
And threw 2 touchdowns. He also threw 2 picks, but he threw 2 touchdowns. Those are their 5 quarterbacks. Watson for 6 games, Flacco for 5, DTR for 3, PJ Walker for 2, Jeff Driscoll for 1. They were 10th in the league in scoring. So
that's not bad. That's pretty damn good.
They got to go get their version of Amari Cooper.
And Nick Chubb was hurt.
Oh, and they didn't have Nick Chubb the whole season. They got to go
injuries on the offensive line too.
No,
yes,
Jedrick Wills got hurt.
They were in and they had a lot of injuries. They were in and out all up front. So Scott Peters, just an offensive line coach.
So look, I'd say this: tight end driven offense. Mm-hmm. They got the resurgence of David Njoku. He looked like he was going to be a bust, and the last couple of years he was pretty good. They got to get their version of Amari Cooper. I think they got to go out and get a guy like that. You're going to need support pieces around the quarterback. And this is nothing new, but I think this kind of, I don't know, I've seen some people sort of tweeting this out. I'm not saying it means, okay, so the Patriots interviewed Van Pelt today. So this kind of came together.
That was fast.
Quickly.
Must have been impressive.
Again, somebody said no to someone at some point. I truly believe that. What was I saying? I let me ask you guys before I give this take. Not saying this is the ultimate determining factor in this, but now Alex Van Pelt's your OC. Mac Jones, more likely to be back? Does this news make you feel like it's more likely he's back or less likely he's back? Because I'm kind of leaning more.
Really? I don't really know how much it changes things. I think that I stand by the fact that this is such a high pick. Slight, I really don't know because
they brought in a quarterback fixer.
Yeah,
but
I mean,
you have the number 3 pick. You can fix a quarterback with a way higher floor and a higher ceiling as opposed to sticking with Mac Jones.
I still think they're going to take a quarterback. Let me say that. Mm-hmm. But if I was like 10% Mac Jones is going to be back when we started this show.
20, 15.
I was going to say like 12 or 13.
Okay.
Like slight. Sure. You got to get a magnifying glass to really see the needle move, but the needle did move a little bit in that direction for me. I'm curious how you guys, because it's going to be a part of this conversation. It's going to be a question. Taylor, it sounds like you think it makes it less likely he's back, if anything.
I mean, honestly, I'm kind of just not moved. I think you're in the same spot you were in where you have a top 3 pick. You're hoping you never get a top 3 pick again. You might as well shoot for a quarterback who's much more dynamic.
Let me rephrase the question, because this is half Patriots Beat, so we're going to use my Patriots Beat philosophy. Nobody cares what we would do, right? We're not the one making the decision. It's our job to say what we think they will do. Reading the tea leaves, what do you think this move tells you about the conversations inside the building regarding Mac Jones?
Well, they could go get their juiced up Amari Cooper and Marvin Harrison Jr. and then have their Joe Flacco, Baker Mayfield, and Mac Jones, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, at the same time, I think the biggest determining factor in that is how Mac is seen on a personal level in the building. Like,
Okay.
yeah, you can fix the skill set. We already know that Mac is somebody that, like, you can win games with if he's surrounded by talent, and they have the draft capital to do that, of course. But at the same time, there have been reports that indicate that, maybe he rubbed people the wrong way a little bit with the bravado and the overconfidence that wasn't really justified. And we know that the quarterback room wasn't the healthiest spot. Also, Jacoby Brissett, I think it increased the likelihood that maybe he comes back because he
That's
obviously was with the
interesting.
Browns with Van Pelt, so there's a little something there. Maybe he can massage the quarterback room a little bit and kind of bring back some good vibes. I don't know, but with Mac Jones, if we're talking about whether it increases or decreases the chances, for me, the determining factor is something that we do not know for sure. But what we do know based on reports is that maybe personally he did sour some people, but Gerard Mayo did make it clear that, he's not fully off the table and that maybe they will still want to work with him. So it's an interesting conversation for sure, but I just don't know on a personal level whether or not people are still bought into the Mac Jones experience.
I just think it's going to be part of the conversation. Certainly not the whole conversation. Again, I still think they should take a quarterback, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm still taking a quarterback, but I will say Mike Reese tweeted like 3 minutes ago, just source from either he said most recently with the Browns, Alex Van Pelt, or one source says great football mind, very relatable to players as a former player. So, another one of these former player guys who comes in, and he says his system has been based in West Coast, but multiple influences. So
yeah.
Jeff
Howe said something kind of similar. West Coast system, but has versatility due to his background. Great person who can establish a positive offensive culture. Also a big thing with the Browns' identity, a very diverse run scheme. So that maybe affects how they see the offensive line. I still am not of the mindset that you get rid of Mike Onwenu because you want to run outside zone. I think with Mike Onwenu, you can still run wide zone and be fine. And plus, with the Browns, they catered their run scheme to the running back. So Nick Chubb, it was a whole lot of actual outside zone where you're trying to get to the perimeter and use his speed and his explosiveness. And then when it was Kareem Hunt, they used a ton of gap scheme. So he's not the run game coordinator, but still you have to work together in that capacity when you're building plans and things like that. So they do want to be diverse probably in the run game. Like you said, frankly, there are some overlaps with the Kyle Shanahan offense. You got the West Coast passing game, the run scheme where it's a lot of heavy personnel. They use a ton of use 3 tight ends on the wing with 1 wide receiver. They do that kind of style. So if you're kind of looking at, okay, well, if you're trying to shift towards maybe more of a Shanahan style or McVay style, where are you at? It probably leans more towards Shanahan, even though he also uses more gap scheme over the past couple of years and people have really given him credit for. But personnel-wise, we know the Niners, they love multiple tight ends. They love using the fullback. And the Browns, they didn't really have a fullback on the roster, but they use their tight ends as kind of hybrid fullback. So it'll be interesting to see what that looks like. But again, the versatility is there. Honestly, this seems like a great hire. It came out of nowhere, but the more I'm seeing about him, the more this is great, especially on a really young coaching staff where the offense is the unit that really needed the most fixing as opposed to the defense where you already had Gerard Mayo, DeMarcus Covington, and Steve Belichick as the big leaders on that side. And now you just retain continuity. Obviously, Jeremy Springer is a younger guy on the special teams unit, but, like we said earlier, he's still a bit of an unknown.
So let me ask you one more here before we wrap it up. Who's a better fit for the Alex Van Pelt offense, Jaden Daniels or Drake May?
I mean, we saw him use Deshaun Watson. So it's the versatility. I don't mean to give a cop-out answer, but I think
it's a real answer.
Both. Yeah, but I mean, I think it's exciting where if you're talking about Jake, okay, so I don't think Drake May is as scheme specific. I think that he can throw outside, he can throw over the middle, he can open up your run game a little bit. Whereas Jaden Daniels, I think early in his career, you do want to lean into his rushing ability. I haven't watched a ton of Browns film, so I don't know how much Deshaun Watson did that, especially because he was dealing with injury. But he has experience with someone with that Deshaun Watson skill set of, he is also a running threat. So, I would just say that at least that this is someone where regardless of who they pick, with that number 3 pick, it's somebody that he could probably build a scheme to maximize their talents.
I agree. Yeah,
that makes sense.